This was asked twice.
That's a good one.
David, what do you recommend for an aggressive dog introducing to a baby?
So
Go.
here's where I like to use, I tell people words matter. Aggressive dog introducing to a baby.
Yes.
Don't. Do not introduce your dog to your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Here is where we can go back to the walking perfectly thing. Your dog must be able to exist in your home with things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that means for me, hey, there's a crying baby over there. What does that mean to you, dog? It means nothing. It means I need you to go lay over there and go on your dog bed. So one of the last things you're going to want to do with an aggressive dog is
introduce it to a baby.
Here, look at it, smell it, right? Like
I like the point of view here.
That's exactly right. So here's a better one. Like, look at it, right? Like that, and your dog goes, Jesus, like, what are you doing? I don't want that.
Yeah.
I get a lot of lessons that people are like, hey, my wife's 6 months pregnant, my wife's 4 months pregnant, and our dog's not good with people. So we want to do some lessons now to get them comfortable with people. So when the baby comes, and now those people, their kids are walking now, and those kids are walking those dogs because they did exactly what I said, which was don't let your dog near your baby.
Yeah.
Keep your dog. Do what you do with your dog. Do what you do with your baby. They don't.
It's your baby. It's your dog.
That's it.
Create that distance.
That's it. Your dog does not walk freely in your house. And if your baby's on the floor crawling or something, like, oh, God, no. Like, your dog should be in a crate or in a pen. Or, like, I won't even say put your dog on place because if your baby's crawling to your dog, that's just not a good idea.
Yes, I am completely with you on that. And one thing that, what's funny is this morning I got a call from a client that did a board and train, I think like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I haven't seen the dog in a while. They're from like the Kentucky area.
Cool.
And she recently had a baby, and the baby is, I'll be honest, I don't know how old at this point. I want to say like 6 months, somewhere around there. Anyways,
baby.
So she was a little concerned because this dog had a history of human aggression issues, and her baby just started. She followed all of the steps to a T for first like month that the baby was home, as far as just separate. You don't have to have them together. There's no introduction. Everything was great. There was no problems. But now the baby's starting to crawl, right? And she was a little concerned because when the baby was starting to crawl, she started noticing her dog just getting uncomfortable. Nothing bad. The dog wasn't doing anything. Just like kind of stiffen and stuff. And usually what I say is there are 2 stages to introducing your dog to children. And by introducing, I just mean acclimating, right? Getting them used to being around them. The first step is right when the baby gets home, when they're getting used to the smells, the sights, the change of routines, right? All of those different things that the dog is going to be experiencing having something new in the house, right? Stage number 2 is when that child starts becoming an active part of all of your day-to-day routines, right? They're not like in their pen all the time, or their crib all the time, or in their little rocker all the time, or in your hands all the time. They're going to be, what?
You're rolling stepped on me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, typical.
But they're gonna be moving around more. They're gonna be doing things. They're gonna be playing, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
When that point hits, everything starts changing again, right? People look at this process of children getting acclimated to dogs, particularly dogs that have a history of having issues, and they think of it as like one sequential thing, right?
Yeah.
Where there's stages, right? And each stage, it's like generalizing your dog's commands, right? To new places. Each stage, you have to re-generalize things. Keep getting paused here. I don't know what's going on. All right. So stage number 1, right? Baby first comes home. Stage 2, baby starts crawling. Stage 3, child starts talking and walking, right? Each one of those stages, I'll kind of restart back from square one. And I'll go back to the no physical contact, just get them used to seeing and experiencing and smelling until they're comfortable. Then I'll start loosening up on that criteria. Stage 2 comes around. You go back to the beginning. No physical contact, always in command around the child, right? Then I'll loosen up as they start to get comfortable with that criteria. Stage 3, same process. And then usually once you're past those 2 to 3 stages, you're kind of in the clear, right? But obviously you still need to maintain that degree of supervising and watching and stuff. And as long as you're strict about that, like we've seen dogs that are really human aggressive that have been able to successfully be around children, right? But you have to look at it in those stages and start from square one each time, so that you're allowing the dog to get reacclimated to all of this new stuff each time, right?
Shout out to Josh.
Josh
Moore.
Moran?
No, not Josh Moran. One of my clients, Josh. Him and his wife have a dog named Riley.
Yeah.
I feel like her name's Sarah, and I'm sorry if it's not Sarah. I'm pretty sure it's Sarah. But they have a dog, Riley, who's pretty human aggressive, and they started with me when she was 5 months pregnant, and now they follow me on Instagram, so I see their posts, and like they've got their daughter like holding the leash while Riley's walking down.
Yeah.
And it's like they literally did exactly what I said to a T. And
you have to play the long game with that stuff. Right?
It is. It's a marathon. This whole thing is a
marathon with dogs and babies. It's a marathon with aggression in general, right? Aggression is one. It's not like jumping, where your dog can either be jumping or not be jumping.
Yeah. There's
There's many
in between.
There's so much in between with that. You got to play the long game with it, and yeah, you could absolutely hit that point where when the child is, old enough and big enough to be able to just like comprehend your direction, just like the dog needs to comprehend your direction, like to a T, then you could successfully manage your pack, right? And if your pack includes a child, 2 children, 2 dogs, any combination of the 2, you can go with that. Now, one last point on that, just because I don't think we touched on this. This is under the assumption your dog is trained.
Yeah,
right?
that's important.
None of this applies if your dog does not have a solid concrete training.
If your dog is not trained, seek out professional training. Now, one thing I do tell people all the time, when I say seek out professional training, I feel like it's very important. Mm-hmm. As a member of the International Association of Canine Professionals, the IACP, I have access to a directory of trainers in the entire world that are members of the IACP. That means I can actually vet that trainer that I recommend, which I have done and I will do. Mm-hmm. So shoot me a message if you need to find a good trainer in your area, and I will find somebody for you. Yeah.
Luckily, I feel like a lot of dog trainers have a lot of friends that are dog trainers, and you kind of know who to recommend for the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is good to, if you have somebody you know and trust, and maybe they're not accessible or whatever, just ask for a recommendation. I don't think very many of us have too huge of an ego where we're not going to, point you in the right direction with things. So, all right, moving down the list. One of the biggest things I would like to talk about with you is dogs and babies. You just had a baby. Very exciting. Yeah. Obviously, I've congratulated you on that before, but for everybody that doesn't know, Joe owns a dog training business with his wife. They just had a baby, and you have how many dogs, Joe?
13.
13 dogs.
Personal dogs.
So, can you tell us a little bit about how all of that went down? As far as like what did your structure look like for the first little bit for that, as far as like bringing a new child into the home where you are also operating your business from? Yes, Joe from Florida. He is live here right now with us. How did you guys handle that? I obviously have my ways of telling my clients to do it that have been pretty successful, but I don't have a kid, obviously.
For sure.
You just went through all of that, and I get asked all the time about that. So I'm just curious to hear some of your insight on what you went about doing for that.
Yeah, of course. And the crazy thing was, he was born last May, so he's 10 months old now.
Sure.
But he was born pretty much at the heart of our busy season, June, July, August. During our boarding season, I took, less training dogs at that point. But it was, everybody was gone, for summer and all that kind of stuff. So as far as our personal dogs go, we took our time. All of our dogs have, a very set structure as far as, they understand what's expected of them and all that kind of stuff. So in the beginning, a lot of it was having him in play pens, or even when we put him in his chair, his swing, we put an X pen around him. Mm-hmm. So that way they could be around him, but not necessarily constantly interacting.
Sure.
And just with introducing a new dog, we would have 1 or 2 dogs that we know that would be fine. If he cried, that it wouldn't be a problem. And then after just really a few weeks, they're okay, not a big deal. Now we're dealing with crawling and all that kind of stuff. So again, we're kind of going back to a different stage. So again, it's a lot of structure now that he's become more mobile. And then once they get used to that, again, then he's gonna be walking soon. Kind of going back to that structure to kind of just give them back in the routine of all that kind of thing.
So like obviously like I talk about kind of the stages of how I break that up with like the like first coming in, the crawling, the walking, things like that. Did you notice like with your dogs like changes like when like your kids started like moving around a little bit more and stuff like that?
Not necessarily. And again, like it's one of those things where like we set the dogs up and obviously our son up for success. Like we're not just putting them on the ground with all 13 dogs like, hanging out. So it's still like rotation, especially during these transition times, to kind of figure out who's more accepting than others. But again, it's also like him, so that way he's not like learning to crawl and like grabbing them and all that kind of stuff, because he does that with our cats too. We have a couple cats. So like the one cat like absolutely loves him and will like come up to him and like he'll like be trying to grab his tail and stuff. So again, it's kind of showing him just like with a dog, like these are things that you can do, these are things you can't do. It's very structured, especially with the amount of the dogs that we have and like temperaments and stuff. So there's one dog in particular of ours that like has minimal interaction with him. Same thing with the other dogs. But you met her, Scandal.
Yeah. Is that the Malinois?
Yeah.
So you had a couple. I'm guessing you were a little bit more careful about as far as the introduction process.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so at this point, so you said 10 months. How much actual interaction have the dogs actually had with your kid?
Quite a bit, especially our personal dogs. Like if we're like hanging out on the couch and we're holding them, like all of our dogs will come up and greet them. The majority of them will like lick them and stuff, and it's not like an issue. But again, like he's kind of doing a different stage. Like he just started crawling and all that kind of stuff. So the dogs may be a little bit weirded out by that. But, like, so far, we haven't seen anything. Now, once he starts walking, I think that's going to be a whole nother story because he's going to be on their level versus like lower, like to the ground and like slower. If he starts running around when he's walking, then it's going to be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I feel like it's so dog dependent, you know, and I feel like it's so probably owner dependent. Like obviously, like because you train dogs, you're getting a different degree of control and trust and kind of understanding of what each dog is going to need throughout those stages, right? I do like the idea of the X pen around though in that case, because like obviously like I would recommend like
tree though too. Like,
what's that?
So we do that with our Christmas tree too.
Right, yeah, I mean that's obviously given. We can't be having the Christmas tree getting destroyed, but
yeah,
I feel like I'll typically recommend like bed stays and down stays and stuff like that, but like that obviously is gonna require a lot more of a degree of paying attention to the dog in that situation when you have other things that you need to focus on and worry about and stuff like that as well. So that's a pretty good idea with that on being able to kind of help alleviate some of that and make sure the dog can kind of be a little bit more free and help like, you know, see how they respond to getting a little bit closer and stuff in more of a safe manner, you know? So
yeah. I mean, cool. Issues and X-Pens, like, not necessarily the X-Pens for the dogs, but yeah, X-Pens for him, like, because we have a chair that hooks up to the table or the counter. We would put it around that, or like the swinging GAN. It gives the dogs room to move around and be able to get fairly close to him without having to necessarily interact with him. So I think that has helped tremendously versus like if I didn't have that, then like again, like if you have the dog on leash, a lot of people would be like they'd have leash tension, right? And if the dog like get nervous or whatever, right, then they'd be pulling the dog back kind of thing. So it creates a lot of like frustration, obviously, or something like that versus like having that X-Pen as a barrier initially. So I think you like get a better read on them.
Yeah, those are all solid ideas. Yeah, it's like I said, it's an interesting one. It's one people stress so much, I feel like, and can either do it like way proactive and way safe about it and just really take their time throughout the process, which is really the smart thing to do, or people just rush so quickly and do it. Like it baffles me sometimes the advice that I see people giving when it comes to dogs. You know what I mean? Like it's plain and simple. Like when you're leading your group, right? Like you ultimately need to be able to communicate and dictate like what's yours and what isn't theirs, right? And 90% of problems you're going to have with your dog, like outside of even babies, are due to your dog thinking that objects or people or your dogs or whatever are theirs, right? So going into things with that like methodology of like oh, like here, like you're gonna come and check this thing out and say hi to it and sniff it and do all these things. Let me give you blankets and clothing. And this is just all nonsense. So
Yeah,
man
I think
himself.
the biggest thing, like, because I've introduced like 1 million dogs to a ton of other stuff too, but like again, neutrality is one of the biggest things I look for. Once you have neutrality, it's a lot easier to deal with, right? Like if they're not actively like trying to like pull towards something, you're not going to have those issues. Just like with socializing with people or their dogs and that kind of thing. Same thing with kids. Like I'll take the dogs for a walk, like with the stroller and stuff, and it's the same thing. Like they're getting used to him, but they're not necessarily interacting with him.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I feel that.